Well, hello and welcome to Crush Your Mountain, Personal Growth. Sandra Mackay, at an early age, began to deal with auditory as well as visual hallucinations. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and that could have totally destroyed her life. But she's here with us today. She's an amazing woman. I've known her for several years. And just to give you an idea about the type of individual she was, in spite of the challenges that she faced, she graduated from the University of British Columbia. She had the Courage to Come Back Award. She's published 3 books, one of which was My Schizophrenic Life. The other one is Chop Shtick. And also, now, I don't want to mess up the name of the last one, so we're going to ask Sandra to tell me the name of the last one.
Yeah, From New York to Vancouver, that I co-wrote with a fellow in New York.
Absolutely. And finally, one of the other things that she's accomplished, she received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal for overcoming severe adversity. So we're so excited to have her with us today. I'm going to tell you something. You want to talk about adversity, and this is why this is so important. There's so many of you out there that are dealing with schizophrenia and other illnesses of that sort. But we're going to talk about 3 things that helped her. And we're going to encourage you, the audience. If you know someone with this, we want you to encourage them to get those 3 things, provide those 3 things for them, or help them to get to a place where they can achieve that somehow. So without any further ado, we're going to talk a little bit about her. We also want to commend her for the things that she's done over the years. We really appreciate that. You're truly an amazing individual. I need to ask you a quick question. What is your process, first of all, with your paintings? Because I'm looking at the work behind you, and I see different elements there. So you tell me, first of all, what is your process?
Yeah, so I started painting when I got out of high school, actually, and I got a fine arts diploma at Vancouver College. And art was really a refuge for me. It was this place to escape into a world where, it was just about the craft. It was just about creating, and that whole high you get from being in the studio. It really made me also be able to express like negative and positive emotions. So if I'm going through stuff, some angst and stuff, I could put it in the art, throw everything into the art. So it was really kind of a healing kind of process for me. And if you go through the years, if you follow my art through the years, you can see the progression of how my art changed over time. From a very, more a darker side with a play of elements, personal struggle, into really paintings of wellness and joy and happiness.
Yes. Now, I'm going to ask a favor on that note. You have My Schizophrenic Life with you. I want to show everyone the cover of that book, because I think that reflects some of the beginnings there. Am I correct to say that? Can you tell us where you were coming from emotionally when you did that cover? When you did the art that became that cover?
Yeah, so this painting on the cover is called Modern Hieroglyph. And it's a bit about how the red, which represents my illness, kind of obliterated my life, right? It just overtook and splattered all over what I had. But then at the same time, there's color and joy in the colors. So there's this kind of idea of hope on the horizon as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of relates to like Rorschach paintings and that sort of thing as well. Rorschach paintings. Yeah.
Now, you did one called The Silent Woman, am I correct?
Yes. So The Silent Woman, I did when I got out of college, and it's this woman, but she has no mouth, and it sort of articulates how I was so ill but unable to voice or articulate what was happening for me in my life, because I didn't really know the ins and outs of schizophrenia. I was really suffering in silence. So that painting is very personal for me. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It's reminiscent of a young lady I remember that we were kind of helping her with something. And when myself and another gentleman came to visit her, she was unable to articulate what she was going through at that time, and she was basically having a manic episode in her bipolar circumstances. So I can certainly well relate to that in a lot of ways. Then later on, you did one called Two Flowers. They were irises. Would you share that with us? Do you recall that one?
Yeah. So that painting is about the yin yang. Okay. So it had. I can send you these photos later. So the purple iris represents the darker side, and the yellow iris represents the more positive aspects of life, and the backgrounds are very vivid and beautiful. So it's really about that tension that we have between good forces and evil forces in our lives.
Yeah. So understanding a little bit about the concepts of yin and yang, it ultimately represents balance.
Yes,
and the fact that you utilize the flowers to represent that helps us to see a natural balance in nature, as it were. So yourself, you are almost presenting yourself or saying emotionally now that you are reaching that natural balance. And had in your life at that time, had you found that?
Yes. It was really to reach those times of equilibrium, right? Where things are kind of balanced in your life. And it's all about moderation, right? Like, don't go too far any one direction, but just kind of work with what you have and just push through.
Yeah. So let me ask you this now, through your journey, okay, as you began to deal with this, because there's so many individuals that have this particular challenge, you see, and the title of my show is Crush Your Mountain. And we have this, I lived in the environment of schizophrenia. I know what it can be like and how challenging it is. But one of the things that in my research and us talking that came to light was that your dad was a tremendous support to you as time went on.
Yeah. He really believed in me, like my family. They said, Sandra, you have this illness, but you can still have a good life. You can still go to school. You can get married. You can have an education, get a job. They didn't see it as like the end of the road. They said, Sandra, you can still make it. You can still have a great life. And it turned out I did. And I met a wonderful fellow. We got married. I'm still with him 26 years this August. And he's been insurmountable in caring for me and helping me out. He tutored me in college, and then got through university because he tutored me. But also my biological family as well, and the family I married into. I'm really, really lucky to have the support of a lot of people.
That's one of the core things there. So, the first key thing we want to think about is your strengths. We are encouraged. Sandra, you drew on your strengths that you had. You didn't focus on the weaknesses itself. And actually, in some ways, you might even say the weakness almost fueled the strength, as it were.
Yeah.
The other thing that was important was your support that you had. That's so important. Dealing with mental illness, it's common for people not to fully understand. And when you don't understand, then patience can run out. And of course, there are maybe cultural influences that we have to take into consideration too. But one of the things that's so important, is that patience that comes from understanding that you're family. In the Bible, one of the statements is that love never fails, and that's so important to consider, because love, being an energy in itself, can be applied in so many ways as long as we're willing to do so. So when we see the love that came from your family first, your father, okay, who let you get through things when a lot of people probably didn't understand.
Yeah.
You had that solid base.
Yeah. For example, my husband, okay, so he knows me when I'm well, right? That's the Sandra he knows. But he knows I have these darker times or episodes I might go into for a day, a week, an hour at a time. So he understands enough that I need space at that time. He can be on the periphery, and when I come back to reality, then I'm all there 100% again. But he understands my cycles. He understands my illness and how it can move in ebb and flow. And he's willing to work with that and help me through the difficult times and be there and enjoy the support, the good times as well. So that's really what our relationship, it's a lot of give and take. And he's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I also wanted to get to as well, because I had the privilege of meeting Glenn, and it was amazing to talk with him briefly. And, we both understood the importance of, again, that support. There's several different, I would say, tiers, as it were. You have that, of course, we talked about your dad, because that's the family support. But then with a husband, it's even, I think, it's even more crucial, because as time goes on, the saying is the two will be one flesh, you see? And that oneness of flesh really has to be incredibly tight, incredibly strong, and incredibly committed, And that's what I've heard from you. I talked to you yesterday, and you told me how he's put on a deck, he's doing all sorts of things out of flowers. But, you see, the things that he has done is his own work of art, so to speak, in support of you. You see what I'm saying? That I really, that's something I really admire as far as both of you is concerned. Back to your books now, okay? We understand your first book, My Schizophrenic Life, is certainly a story about you, okay? Actually, it's your autobiography.
Yeah.
And that I think that influenced quite a few people, okay? But now, you moved into comedy, which I was surprised about, because I remember when you were doing My Schizophrenic Life. So tell us about Chop Shtick, okay? And for those of you who are too young to understand what shtick is, okay, shtick is a form of comedy. It's a lot of dialogue, a lot of not necessarily suggested innuendo, but it's sometimes it's double speak, but it's always hilarious. And then, of course, there's Chop Shtick, okay? So we're going to find out how that blends into the comedy. You talk a little bit about that. Help us to appreciate that more, because I know people are going to want to get the book.
Okay, great. So that's Chop Shtick. This cover is actually chopsticks on a piece of canvas, okay? So that's the idea there. So it's kind of actually, it's fictional, but it's sort of a sequel to my memoir, because I'm kind of play the main character. It's kind of loosely based on reality. And so it's about me and my friends, like we call ourselves the Big Six, and a group of artists who come together and get a commission to do an upcycled sculpture in downtown Vancouver. And it's just a ride. It's a hoot. It's really fun. It pokes fun at all types of things. But it also has some real messages there around relationships, around bonds, around mental illness, about art. And it's really entertaining. It's a light read. You'll get through it. You'll read it through in a few days. It's really fun.
Yeah, well, summer is the time for reading. Oftentimes, certainly those that when you're able to take the time, and we're in the age of COVID, and some folks have more time than they they bargained for. So this is an opportunity to take some time, okay, and to get to know this aspect of the art of Sandra Mackay. We really appreciate all of our discussion, But I'm going to again ask one last thing about you. With all the things you do, because you're still with the Schizophrenic Society there, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And you're still doing, and so you're still a spokeswoman.
Yeah. So I do give talks. Like I've given talks to university students, college students, family members, mental health consumers, people in psychology classes, people in nursing, kinetics, in pharmacy, all types of things. I also I do also like conferences and things, and I've done also some video work that's been online, YouTube, talking about my art as well and my journey. Yeah.
That being the case, what do you do as far as quiet time? Because that's something that's very important.
Yeah, so balancing like times of high productivity with exercise. So walking, getting enough sleep, downtime. I do a bit of journaling, listening to music, watching television, actually, watching Dr. Bonnie Henry, who is a health official in BC, talking about COVID and what we can do to, flatten the curve, etc. So seeing my friends, socialization is super important. And then if I am having issues, like having someone to kind of bounce ideas off like a springboard. So say my my therapist, or a family member who can help me overcome things when I'm losing insight around my illness, so I can kind of get back on the right page and say, okay, that's probably not part of the true reality, and kind of be able to work through on thoughts that kind of break through during wellness. So it's a bit of a tightrope walk, because I may seem very well, but at times I'm still veering off onto tangents in my mind. So it's really about keeping focused, staying well, having enough relaxation time, and being with people.
That's so important. Even again, referring to a proverbial saying, it says that one who's isolating himself is seeking his own longing. And what that really helps us to appreciate is that many times when we are just cutting ourselves off, then perhaps the illnesses that we face can take over. And so a good thing and an example for everyone is that socialization, and the socialization that's going to keep you upbeat, positive. So again, that takes into Glenda and your friends and family that love you to keep you going. Again, Sandra, I want to thank you so very much for just taking a few minutes of your time like this, And again, friends, if you look at the paintings, you can see the various different styles that she actually imbues. You can see the architecture that certainly her father's influence, because he was an architect. You can see the beautiful landscapes, the seascapes there, being on the dock. And of course, the two women behind her that really emphasize friendship, socialization, and those things are so important when it comes to dealing with mental illness. So again, thank you, Sandra. Is there anything you'd like to say to, let's just say, I know there are some friends of mine personally that are going to see this and they are dealing with mental illness. What can you say to give them some encouragement?
Yeah, I want to say that recovery is possible. You can find the right treatment. You can really have a good life. You can, and that also there is hope. Like a lot of people, they lose hope. They don't think there's anything else out there, but through determination and perseverance, finding support, finding things you like to do, hobbies or work or volunteer or ways to give back. There's ways you can still find joy in life and purpose in life. And I truly believe that for everyone. I think, everybody has struggles, right? They could be financial, it could be economic, or it could be, family issues, or divorce, or whatever things. But I think we all need to work through things. We all have our weaknesses, our problems, but go with your strength and focus on what really gives you meaning in life.
Thank you so very much for that. And with that, we're going to tell you what, my whole saying is don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And certainly you have done that yourself, and you should just keep on crushing. And again, we're looking forward to your next book, as well as and your next great work of art. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the interview. That's really great. Thank you.
Take good care, and we'll catch you later. Catch you guys next time. Cut!